Yes, I'm reading the book Night by Ellie Weasel, or something like that. Is that how you say it? Okay, I'm not with names. But I was wondering, he said that when he was in the Holocaust, that he had to give up on his gold tooth. Did you have anything that you had, like, that you could have saved and that you sold on the black market for, like, extra bread or anything?
I didn't get it.
They're reading a book right now called Night, and Elie Wiesel.
He's reading Night.
He's wondering, Jeff is wondering, if you had a gold tooth or anything like that that you gave up in order to save yourself.
I'm sorry, I don't
He's
get
wondering if you had like a gold tooth or anything that you might have had that you might have given up, or something of value that you gave up.
I didn't have that choice, giving up gold teeth or whatever, because if they wanted my gold teeth, they would just take a pair of pliers and put them out without me approving it, so that wasn't my choice. Anything of value that they knew I had, they would just take it themselves. They wouldn't ask me. It wasn't mine. I have no authority over it. Why don't we make it, if you have a question, come up front here, and we'll speed it up and get more questions in. So please come up front.
Come to me.
Whoever has a question, don't be bashful. How did we meet? No. My wife had an uncle here that he lived in Baltimore, and she was single and I was single. So he invited me over. He bought some diapers, even though I was having things like diapers, linens, and so on. Even though he didn't need them, he conned me into it. He told me to come over, that they needed them to meet it, and from then on we're still together. Now it's 58 years. Is that okay? Is that what you want to know? Okay. Anybody else? I was told you have a lot of questions, so don't let the teachers down. That's right.
My grandmother had a friend.
Come on over here, come on over here.
Please hold it up close so everyone can hear. Thank you.
My grandmother had a friend that her mother, I believe, to get into this country was put in a bowling bag and put on a ship to get here. Like, you know, anybody that like had to do something like that just to get to America, to get away from everything.
The question was, do I know anyone that can smuggle here on a ship or however swim across? I do not, because we all came. It took me a long time to get here. It took me 18 days to get here. I could have probably swum across. But I don't know anybody that came over here illegally. We all came here legally, and we are all now citizens, and no one smuggled over here.
It was, there were about 1,000 people, and I think 1944, that were brought to America, that FDR, the president, let them come to America, and men, women, and children. and they were sent to Oswego, New York. And instead of letting these people go free, they kept them in almost like in a concentration camp. And after Roosevelt died, and Truman was the president, and he found out about these people, because originally Roosevelt said, well, when the war ends, they have to go back. What are they going to go back to? So President Truman set them free. And there was a book written called Safe Haven. It was an absolutely amazing thing. The little children from the town of Oswego, New York, would go up to the fence and pass things into the kids. Even a bicycle, they threw it over the fence, that the children should have a bicycle. And various cities all over the United States took these people in. And what was the name of the ship that came to Cuba? It was a ship called the St. Louis. This is before the war. Just before the war. Where German Jews, managed to get on this ship. It was called the St. Louis. And the ship came to Cuba. And the Cubans wouldn't let these people in. There were about 1,000 people on that ship. And they sailed up to the United States. Roosevelt would not let them in. The ship went back to Germany. Most of the people that went back died in the Holocaust. A few were lucky, they made their way to England, and some actually wound up in China and places like that. But no country in the entire world was willing to take Jewish people in. This is all over the world before the war. They refused. No one wanted them. Isn't that horrible when you think about that? And there was no Israel. And they couldn't get into Israel. If at least if Israel was free and they could get in there, so think of how many lives would have been saved. So Jews really had it tough. Okay?
Okay. I come to you to stand up. What kept me going was I never, as far as I remember, I happened to be lucky. I had luck during the incarceration, but what I had was just as important, is the willpower to live, never giving up. I never was thinking about committing suicide or dying. My thoughts were always, what will it be like after I come out of here and find my family? And it's something that we all should remember. If you ever get sick or you have a problem, the only one that can help you is you yourself. I've seen people giving up and they died overnight. Don't ever do that. If you ask me, if I have to tell you, how did I survive, I will tell you two things. I really don't know, but if I have to pick anything, it would be luck and the willpower to live, to achieve, to get where you want to go. I have been fortunate that way.
The other question I had was, you said that when they came into your town, that some went this way and some went that. What was the difference?
No, the road divided. People that lived on one side, people that lived on the other side. It's where we lived. So that's how we did it. Anybody else? Let's get this.
After you got out of your vegetated state, did your sister go to jail and obviously
I could not, because I could not move for 7 months. I was so skinny that if you don't have flesh on your body, your skin comes off. I lied on my back and I had no flesh. You could see my bones sticking out. So I could not do anything. My sister could not leave me because if she leaves, I'd be gone. She was my mother, she was my nurse, she was my doctor. So we could not go. My brother, the older brother also survived. He did go back, but very few people went back to Poland that I know of. If they went back only to see whether somebody returned, somebody came back. So, but I did go back after 50 years later, I went back. How do I feel towards Germans? I feel towards Germans the same way I feel about anybody else. The reason why those that committed their atrocities, I will never forgive. No one should. But most of the people weren't even born. I cannot hold against them that their parents were German or ancestors. So why would I go around? And I get a lot of times I go to schools, kids come over to me and they're heartbroken. My grandfather was a Nazi. That's your grandfather. You're not responsible for your grandfather. I'm only responsible, you're only responsible for yourself. Don't go by me where I'm from, just look at me. Dr. King said, don't judge me by the color of my skin, judge me by the judgment of my character, but not by the color of the skin. Right? In his speech, don't judge me by the color of the skin, but judge me by my character. Anyway, that's your question. Anyway, now we're going.
After the war, the guards and all the local officials were put on trial. Do you feel that the punishments that they were given were equivalent to enough?
There isn't enough punishment for them. That was too easy for them. But we live in a civilized world, so we've got to be civilized. And it wasn't my choice. Then I was very bitter. I'm not now, because I grew up, I hope. But if I had the choice, I would have given a taste of the life that they gave me, my family.
During your entire time in the concentration camp, was there anything you regretted or would have done differently?
I had no choice. I could not do anything differently or regret. I did the best I could to stay alive. And that's all I could do. It wasn't my choice. I had to do what they told me to do. And because any wrong move would have cost me my life. And meanwhile, I won because I'm still here. I outlived the enemy. And another thing that I want to do, coming back to why I hate the Germans, it slipped my mind. I'll come back to that.
We were wondering if, like, during your whole journey, if you ever saw any sympathetic officers or like people who were just kind of put there but like didn't hate you and didn't want to do the stuff you would have to because it was their job.
Without going to hiding.
Like the officers, the Germans, was there anybody you saw that was sympathetic or that liked you or felt bad for you? Or?
There might have been some of I cannot say that there weren't, just like but I never came across one. I never saw one. I cannot say that I cannot say that they were willing to help me because no one ever showed any sympathy for me or showed any kind of remorse. So there might have been some of them. I cannot take a whole group and say that everybody is bad because a few of them were bad.
I was wondering what was your job, like, during the time that you spent in the labor camps?
I use a shovel. I'm very good with a shovel right now. The Germans trained me pretty well. Most of the time I use a shovel. The last few months I was throwing bodies into this hole. That was my job.
Did you make any close friends while you were in the
There was no social life at all. It was non-existent. Because if I would, first of all, we did not have time. They kept us busy 7 days a week. On Sundays, they made us a lot of times took our coats, turned them around, buttoned them in the back, lifted up the coats. Somebody would put a couple shovels of dirt. We moved them from one corner to the other, all around, back and forth, just to keep us busy. That also helped them kill us without using a bullet or gas. They found so many different ways to kill us. So there was no social life at all.
Is there like anybody that you knew before, like you went to the concentration camp, and if they're still alive today or not?
Yes, there were some from my town. Is that what you mean? Yes, because when they took us out together, they took us to a camp. So we stayed there for a while. And eventually we got split up because they moved us around in different camps. I was in 6 different camps. I wasn't in one all the time.
Well, do you still like talk to them today?
Do I still talk to them? Unfortunately, there aren't many left. Very, very few. My brother-in-law was one of them. He wasn't married then, and he died, so you are probably the last generation that will ever hear a survivor speak. I'm coming over there, I promise.
Did you know anybody that escaped or tried to escape and made it?
I don't know anyone that tried to escape and made it, because one time somebody escaped and they took us men, and we had to go, and they had a dog chew him up practically, and they put the skeleton on an easel, and we had to go through and look at him. They told us, we don't know whether that was the person anyway, that this is what's going to happen if we try to escape. I never thought of escaping, because where would I escape? I didn't know where I was. I knew that the world hated me and wanted me to run in Poland or in Germany. At least to me, they were all my enemies then. So at least here I had a place to stay and I didn't have to run. But I never attempted to escape because I didn't know where to go. We had these striped uniforms that we had to wear, or if it didn't, if I put civilian clothes. It was especially hard for a male Jew to escape. What they did, they knew each male is circumcised at birth. And they made us drop our pants to see whether we turned the truth.
What do you think and feel about the people who deny the Holocaust happening?
No, I don't give a damn about it. They want an audience. If they're going to come in here and you're going to stay and listen to them, they want an audience. You know in your heart that there was a Holocaust. You don't have to prove it to him. And no matter what you're going to say to him, he's still going to feel that way. That doesn't matter. So why would I give him that audience that he wants if you just tell him, you know, a couple of church words and walk away from him? That will hurt him a lot more than, because when you stay there and argue with him, that's what he wants. Don't give him that satisfaction. So if somebody would come over to me now and say, it didn't happen, I would tell him a couple of words and walk away from him, and then stay there and eat. If I would go around and worry about that, he won over me. If I would go around today to think about the Holocaust every day, I think practically every day, but I don't live it. I will never forget it, but I don't live it. If I would live the Holocaust, Hitler would have won over me, even though he's dead and I'm alive. He would have killed me psychologically, not physically. So I don't want to go around and give him the satisfaction, even though he died like a dog, but it doesn't matter. I don't want to give him the satisfaction. So don't go around with something bothers you. Be angry, because the person really doesn't know whether you're angry or not. And only you yourself have to decide. That make it clear. That's mud. Next. Should we let it?
Have you ever to return home?
I hear the told not home. Home is here. I didn't mean that. Yeah, because when somebody asks me, where are you from? I don't tell them I'm from Poland. I'm here. Poland, I don't. But anyway, yes, I did. And I'm glad you brought it up because I got a story to tell. When I was in the camp, it is a tradition in Germany, it was that families on Sunday went for a walk. Here they go for a ride, there they go for a walk. And they walk by the camp, and here I am in my back of wires, and it's fenced in, and they're free. I said, someday I'm coming out here, and I'm going to walk on the same road, and look in just as the way they do. 50 years later, my wife was born here in this country. And 50 years later, we took off and went back. I did get to that camp, and my wife said to me, are you going to go out and look in? I said, no. She said, why not? I said, well, I'm free. I can stay in, look out, or go out and look in. Mission accomplished. Before we left, my sister talked to her. She says, what is your itinerary? And I told her. She says, aren't you going to go to Treblinka? I mentioned before 2 younger sisters. I had 2 younger sisters. One was 10, one was 12. My parents sent them away to my aunt in a bigger city, hoping that they're going to be safer there. Parents did everything they could to save their children. And my parents were no different. They wrote home, we want to come home. So my father somehow got a little money, hired a Pope. He went and he brought them back home. But by the time he brought them home, that ghetto was liquidated. So now we assume that they were taken back to my aunt, and that city, when it was liquidated, was sent to Treblinka. So I had no choice but going to Treblinka, visit the grave. When I got there, I learned a little bit about it, what happened there. Now, you're probably wondering, why didn't we resist? If you watch videos, there was a lot of resistance in camps. Treblinka was no exception. What they were supposed to put down gasoline, fertilizer. Instead, they poured down gasoline all over the camp. And they lit it and burned down. Most camps were within the perimeter of the forest. This is no exception either. When the camp was burning, several hundred escaped into the forest, and very few made it through. But some of them did. And when I got there, I looked into the forest, and I stared in the forest, there into the forest, and hoping that two little faces would come out, meaning my two young sisters. That's 50 years later. Of course, that did not happen. My wife came over to me, she asked me, what are you doing? And I told her, she took me around and walked me away. Those that they captured from in the forest, they brought him back. They made him dig a hole, they killed him, and they put some wood on him and burned him. The ashes are still there. So I went over to the, when she took me away, in the back of us was the pit of ashes. And I went there and I told them, pretending they could hear me. And I told them that I may never come back. But I promised them that I would go around and teach young people for the rest of my life, for as long as my feet will carry me and my lips will move, I will teach them about what happened to them. What I told you today was not about me, it was about them. Because you'll have to carry on for me and for them in future years. Teach your children and your grandchildren and future generations that these things should never be allowed to happen to anybody. No man, woman, or child should have to go through what they did. They just didn't die. They suffered so much before their death. They truly died in pain. And that's why when you go home, you tell your parents how much you love them, your siblings how happy you are that you have them, and all the things that you will ever have. Appreciate what you have, because you were born into the right parents, the right country, at the right time. Take advantage of it. Next.
I lived somewhere that sometimes the concentration camps put electricity in the fences around them to keep them from all.
Yes, the fences were made out of the wire, had 3 layers of fences. You had 2 outside were just fences, and one in the middle, there's an electric one. Anybody that would try to crawl through would be, that's some gadgets there that would go off. But it was very hard to escape because like every 50 feet or so, there's a tower, you see those towers, and they had a guard, there was a machine gun over there, so it was very hard to escape at night. They were lit up, and I don't know if anybody really escaped from the camp.
We were wondering how often you think about it, like how often you think about your experience of like the Holocaust and like how often it affects you on like a daily basis.
You mean how often it affects me? It affects me very often. When I hear some people that are not interested in it, many people think that we're Americans. We are between the oceans on each side. They won't come here. Like 9/11. Even today, you might not be for it. Nobody's for war. I am certainly not for war. I'm against it. But if there would have been wars, we wouldn't be as free as we are today. People think we're oceans apart. The enemy can come here, and we hear so much how many times they catch terrorists that are ready to blow up airplanes. So people were afraid today they're going to be patted down. Ask the 2,000 people that died in the planes in 9/11. Without any hesitation, they would have been happy to be patted down. We live in such a world today. Terrorism is a cancer. Cancer has to be cured. You can't just take medicine just to keep it alive. It's got to be killed. And if we don't kill it, we'll be having other problems.
Before anti-Semitism became like very important in the Nazi Party, was anybody in your family like for the Nazi Party?
When I was, the Nazi Party was in Germany. We probably didn't know, because the first time I saw a newspaper was after the war. We didn't have a radio, we had nothing. So there was no communication. But that was in Germany. Anti-Semitism, I've experienced it way before the war started. I remember it, yeah, I'm 84, I was 84. I remember there was about 2, 3 years at the most. On Passover, you would call it, Christianity would call it the Last Supper. We were sitting and observing it, and I was sitting on my father's lap. And I was number 3 child already, so I had to be small. And somebody threw a rock through the window. And I went to school, I could not sit with all the kids. I had to go to bed because I was Jewish. We did not have indoor plumbing. We had an outhouse, but our playgrounds were not paved like ours are here. So there was sand and stones. Once I got into the classroom, I would leave till school was over because the kids used to sit outside and throw sand and stones at us. I would never walk home from school or walk to school. It's always running. So anti-Semitism was very common in Poland. Every Jewish window at shutters. We closed them at night because we were afraid they could throw rocks. So I experienced a lot with it. That would be another subject.
How did the Holocaust affect your faith?
So, I'm just going to tell you that much. I won't go into details. I come from a very religious home. We really observed our dietary laws, our religious laws, and I believed in God. I believed that God is going to save me, God is going to get me out of there. And I believed it for many years. My thinking, and I cannot prove anything, nobody can, I cannot prove it, about that subject is now different than it used to be. I cannot say there is no God, I don't know. I cannot say there is God, I don't know. I have a different feeling. And religion is a very personal thing. It helps you believe in something, believe in God, or whatever. It gives you hope. It gives you somebody who's going to save you, somebody who's going to do it. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. So that is up to each individual, how you feel, how you believe it. Okay? Well, once we got out of, did you hear the question? During the Holocaust, how much sleep did we get each night? We got probably enough sleep. I probably went to sleep around 9 o'clock in the summer. In the winter, earlier, about 8 o'clock. After they gave us our food, we just hit the deck. And they woke us up at 6. So we had about 8 hours. But you need more than 8 hours when you're under that condition. You're tired, you're weak, you're so many things. So. Anybody have roller skates?
What do you think life would have been like if the Holocaust never happened?
What would I be? I couldn't even dream having what I have today. Where I come from, I probably would have been a furrier. Those were my parents' plans. I didn't plan it, that's what they planned. And we did what parents planned for you. And as for having what I have today, I didn't sit on a couch until after the war. I think until I came to this country. Didn't sleep on a regular mattress until 1948. I didn't have any central heating, forget the air conditioning, until I came to this country. So what we have here, very few people in the world have. You don't know how lucky you are. Really. With everything, the food that you have, and the clothes, the homes that you have. And I don't mean you don't have to have a mansion, you know, things like that. So you're very fortunate, all of you. I see another hand. Okay, the other hand.
Did the Germans ever try to convert you to a different religion, like just to offer you a way out, or no?
No, see, we had no choice. The Spanish Inquisition, Jews were told to convert. If they won't convert, they're going to be killed. So those that converted stayed alive. They had a choice. We were victims. Once a Jew, I had no choice. Not only, even if there was they call it the Muslims, half Jew, half Christians. You know, one parent Christian, one parent Jew. They were considered Jews. So we had no choice. We couldn't make a deal with them. Look, they had some light, like Einstein. Even if he was converted, he wouldn't kill them.
If they were going to give you the option of converting, and if you did, you would have gotten with the hand religion?
Absolutely not. The reason why I say that, it is so very, very important that we believe in ourselves, of what we believe, born that way and die that way. If I had to do it over again, I would be a very unhappy person, but I would not convert. I'm proud who I am. You got to be proud who you are, of your accomplishment, of the achievements. And I feel that I was born a Jew, I lived like a Jew, and I'm going to die a Jew. I'm very proud of it. Everyone should be proud of who they are, what they are, because we all have talents in ourselves. We all have some abilities that others don't have. And we shouldn't give that up. And for what?
What did you miss the most?
What I miss the most is what you have today. That's what I missed. Childhood. Being my family, my parents watching me grow up, watching me get married, having children, having grandchildren. For my parents to see today, I'd give anything if my parents could come back for one day to where I live and sit on a sofa that we have home, or sleep in a bed that I am, or take a shower that I'm taking. Every night I get into bed, I pull the covers over for a few seconds and think about when I stepped on straw or just on dirt. When I go into the shower, how great it feels to have a shower. We take so much for granted, the shower, but no big deal. To me, it's a big deal. I will never go into a restaurant and order something and leave food. Don't waste food. And I got to tell you the story my wife told it before. I went to a school in Virginia, and there were supposed to be 6th and 7th graders, middle school, and the teacher says, we're going to have a 4th grader. I said, you know, they're too young. She says, oh, that's okay. I said, look, it's your responsibility, not mine. I think that she says, it's all right. I finished, and 2 weeks later, she called me on a Monday morning. I was still in bed. And she had to tell me that since I was there, it's a private school and they get lunch. Since I was there, every day after the 4th graders, that is, after they finish eating, they go around and make sure everybody ate their lunch. My grandkids, our grandkids, we cook them out every Friday. And I told them you can order whatever you want, but you got to eat what you take. And they're still doing it now when we go out with them. They can order what they want, but they got to eat to appreciate what we have. Because how many kids in the world, and I rated a number of garbage cans, believe me, I know how it is. Appreciate what you have, because you're so fortunate. All right, I'll come over there.
What's the worst thing you've seen in concentration?
The worst thing without any thinking, not having my family. There's nothing worse. To be able to go and have a mother or father, be able to talk to them, to sit next to them, to hug them, have like I had 3 sisters, 2 brothers. That has to be the worst thing of all. Food, is important, but that is the biggest thing that I missed and still do today. You guys wait over there.
What if something similar to the Holocaust would happen there? What would you do from that situation? If something similar to the Holocaust happened in this time and you were from that situation, what would you do?
It all depends on the situation. Every situation is different. You cannot say, I'm going to do this, that, that. We don't know what the conditions are, what the situation is. So I cannot say whether I would do this or that, because it all depends on the circumstances.
Did you see any organized resistance of the Jews trying to fight against the oppression?
Pick up some books. I watched yesterday about the uprising in Vilna. It's Lithuania. And you see get about the Bolshevik uprising, and so many of them. And you see how brave these men and women were to fight a mighty power, the Germans, tanks and other equipment, and they had these old, dilapidated guns, rusty things, made their own powder, made all living in the forest, outnumbered, and yet they fought so bravely. Many of them died, but some of them survived. And I did not see him personally. I watched last night. I had to dinner together. No, that's your brother's state.
could have kept one thing with you throughout the Holocaust, what would it have been? Yeah, like either your family or like material possession.
I have pictures of a guy, my sister saved him, and every time I open up my wallet, I look at that. No. Oh, I do have pictures of my family that was slaughtered, and my sister saved them. I don't know how, them cared, but because when we came into camp, they took everything away from us, everything, and so anyway. Maybe that's your head.
Do the, should I say grown-ups, do the parents have any questions? The grandparents? Don't be shy.
Hey, parents, you're entitled to a question. Meet me halfway.
I have a question for your wife, possibly. When you were speaking of the Jews coming over in boats prior to the war, and no countries were taking them in, why was that? Was it out of fear, or was it, was it hatred? At that point?
There was some anti-Semitism in the State Department here, and he didn't want to get involved with the President Roosevelt. So they had a little brother around. The Jews also wanted the United States to bomb the railroad tracks going into Auschwitz, stop the flow. And Roosevelt said that we cannot go that far, but we cannot refuel. But yet they bombed places further than that. So there's a little blood on the Yes, exactly.
And I just want to thank you guys for sharing your story.
Thank you for coming. If you don't want to come here, I'll come to you. You let the Northmen walking around and you guys can come to me.
Do you live in the German-speaking part of Poland, or?
No, I lived in the Polish speaking There is no one left. There was a German part, a Polish part when it's called German. It's now the Poland got it back out of Germany, and the Sudetenland. No, I mean the Danzig, the war started all about. He wanted a Poland. They spoke German. I lived on the western side, southwest of Poland. It wasn't my choice. My parents paid for it, father's parents, where I come from, our culture. I was going to be a furrier. It wasn't for me to choose. the father chose. My older brother came a tailor. I was going to be a furrier, and my younger brother's friends from my younger brother were shoemakers. We made everything custom made. Not like you go to the store and you pick up your size. Your size, we went in, we measured you, and they made it for you. But I'm getting for you. Well, going once.
Did you get an education here?
An education? I had 6 years in elementary school when I came here. Because I had to make a living, make sure that my children go to school, and make sure that they don't have to worry about paying off debt. Then grandchildren came along, spent time with them, still had to work for a living. And then I retired at the young age of 70. Came home and I said to my wife, I quit my job. She said, what are you going to do? Well, I'm playing golf, I went to the gym, and that's about, and I speak to schools. She said, that won't take your whole day. You need something else. She said, what's her idea, not mine? She said, why don't you go to school? Because she went to school in her 60s, she got a degree. At age 69, she got her master's. Now, if it's good enough for my wife, it's good enough for me. So I went to Towson University and I registered. I was going for 13 years to Towson University, taking 2 credits to learn and to argue with the teachers. I taught them how to teach. And I ran out of subjects, because all I like is history, and I like political science. So I used up, I got a course, every teacher there, and some of them twice. And I ran out of teachers. So now I need 1,000 to fire a few and get some new ones. Anyway, I went to school. I went to Towson. I ordered the courses. I did not take it for credit because I didn't even have middle school degree. So I didn't want to sit home and have to write papers and have to learn all these things that you guys have to. So you do it for me. Next. Taught me English, we call that English or English. I went to school for 1 year when I came here, and I've been speaking, my boss made me speak English. I could, and then being married to somebody that speaks Brooklynese, I learned somehow with an accent. I didn't have an accent yet.
Have you formed an opinion of the Nazi regime and on Hitler prior to the invasion of Poland? And so what was your impression?
I'm not opinionated, I'm just always right. I did not have an opinion before because, as I said, I didn't know what was going on. My life was very good. I went to Hebrew school and public school, and then took up all my time. And we didn't have any radio, we didn't have any television, newspaper, nothing. So politics was not one of mine then. But I became interested in, I would say, in early 60s. And I've been following career politics very much.
What do you do for a living right now?
Talking to you. What I do for a living right now? Go shopping? No, I don't. I play golf, I exercise, I speak, family, what else? What else do I do? What else do I do? A lot of things. I just didn't have a choice. I would not choose. I don't know what you're referring to. If you're referring about my conversion is that what you... No, I had no choice at all. I had to do whatever the rules were. I had to watch myself not to break it. Because if you break a rule in court, every wrong move, every slight move would cost me my life. I had to be very careful. I had to be on guard every minute of every day. Not to do the things that the rules that they set down. We have to really observe it.
What do you think of, like, the genocide and other Holocaust?
Well, I said before, at the beginning, that the world did not care. I should have had it, still doesn't care. The genocide that's going on today can be solved in no time at all. All it has to do is not just one country, all together, and instead of just demagoguing, just talk about it, act. All these terrorists, they get the money from somewhere. Stop supplying them, stop giving them money, stop giving them weapons or selling them weapons. All you have to do is send in some troops. The United Nations, in my opinion, is worthless. They should make apartments out of it or blow it up because they're not accomplishing anything, just talking. And it can be solved. There's no problem. We have one country fighting the next country. So we're fighting among ourselves. And meanwhile, it encourages the enemy to become stronger. And that's what's happening today. Wars are ugly, and nobody knows it better than I do. But sometimes you have to protect yourself. Because there's never been a pretty war. Never been. So I never get back. I never get back. But I can survive. Or if I stay like this for the next 25 years or a little bit.
Do you have like bad dreams and nightmares? Do you have like nightmares?
Yes, I do. I learned to live with it. And I do. But the good thing about it is, I wake up, I remember it. If I'm going to tell you, if I want to tell you 15 minutes later, I got what settled out. So, and you had my reason of going to stay with you for the rest of my life. If that's all it's going to be, I can live with it. It's either now or never, folks.
You said earlier, you will probably be the last generation that will get to hear firsthand accounts of yes. And I was curious if you're documenting your story, if you have a book or if you have it written somehow.
No, I have a document that was not written because that means writing a book. And I truly feel that there is no need for more books. There are plenty of books around that you can read for the next 1,000 years and you won't finish them. Because to me, books now on that subject or any subject is nothing more than commercial. Trying to make a buck. And I'm not against it. People want to do it, that's fine. Because in books, I find it, and I'm not a big reader, so I should not, you should read books. A lot of things is written by the author's ideas, what he thinks, what she thinks. And since I don't know about very little or know very little of history, considering what's out there, I know about the Holocaust, but some of it is written that it ain't so. And that's why I go around and they invest me and find out what I can then decide. And I tell them the truth of my life. And so, but there are, I made some videos of the Spielberg